The story I'm going to tell tonight is a story about storytelling, which I thought would be a good thing for this kind of special event. It's also a story about the first time I told a story with a microphone at a bar. And it's also a story that involved my friend Anne, who I talked about the last time I read a story, or recited a story here. So this happened about 7 years ago. I was living in Boston at the time, and my friend Anne was a dramaturgy graduate student at Columbia University. And dramaturgy, for those of you who don't know, is I think the technical definition is the study of make-believe. And so Anne was pursuing this degree, and part of her degree requirements was that she had to produce a theatrical event in New York City in order to get her master's in make-believe. And the event she decided that she was going to do was an event she titled Guys That I Know. And it was going to take place at a bar uptown called the Ding Dong Lounge. I think that was the actual name of the bar. And she had several guys that she knew who were going to come and tell stories about their lives. And she said, Matt, would you like to come down from Boston and tell a story? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And I had, at that time, had been, I wanted to be a fiction writer, and I was writing stories. And I was like, actually, I have this great story that I just finished, and I'm really excited about it. And I would love to tell it. And she's like, well, that's not really exactly the idea. I want guys I actually know to tell like real stories about their lives. So I was thinking about it. I was like, well, how about we do it this way? I pretend that I'm the character in the story, and I'll act in character all night. And you'll just, no one there will know me except for you. So you just introduce me as the character in my story, and everyone will just sort of play along. And she was a little, skeptical of that. And I said, well, it'll be postmodern. It'll blur the distinction between fact and fiction. And that got her. That got her. Columbia grad student. So I get myself on the program, and on the program it says, "The Erotic Adventures of Stanley Finkelstein," by Stanley Finkelstein. And I'm like, all right, I'm set. I'm ready to go. I didn't really tell her beyond the title what the story was about, but she was excited that I would be part of the program. And I come down, and I'm there, and she introduces me. This is my friend Stanley from Boston, and I'm like, hey everybody, nice to meet you. And so it comes the time for me to tell my story, and I'm telling the story, and the story is basically about this guy who works at a tobacco store in Rhinebeck, New York, who gets abducted by two college girls who go to a nearby weird liberal arts college, and they abduct him and force him to go bowling with them. And then they take him out into the woods, and they sexually abuse him in various nasty ways. And this story actually was about, and it was supposed to be satirical. It was about kind of my own obsession with trashy fiction, and I was kind of making fun of myself in this story. I have this weird love for bad erotica, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So Stanley gets abducted by these college girls, and I was sort of making it into the story that my friend Anne was actually one of these college girls, and so she was getting a little embarrassed. And so they take him out into the woods when the story really gets going, and and there's a lot of it gets kind of violent. There's some spanking, some paddling, some bondage, a strap on, and and a lot of different reactions are going on with the people in the bar. Some people are laughing, and they're they sort of get that this is satirical and kind of funny, and they're laughing. Other people are just really grossed out by the whole thing, and they just can't handle it. When I get to the climax of the story, which is this anal rape scene, the bartender is like, "Oh my God!" Like he just shouts out from the bar, and I'm like, "I'm gonna get kicked out of this bar before I even get to the end of the story." But I make my way through it, and afterwards, actually the story ends with Stanley loses a lot of blood, and he has to go to the hospital, and he wakes up the next morning, and one of the two girls who abducted him takes him out for breakfast because she kind of feels bad. But after I'm done telling the story, and I'm talking to some people there, and most of the people, they realized that the story was too absurd to be real, and they knew it was kind of a joke, and You know, they're like, "What's your real name?" You know, that was great. That was funny. Other people are just avoiding me. You know. But what was really surprising, a couple of girls were telling me, you know, wow, that story was really sexy. That story was hot. And I'm like, thank you. And I was like, wow, if I really was Stanley Finkelstein, I could probably get a woman here to take me home and do unspeakable things to me. But the best reaction was from my friend Anne, who invited me, you know, to do this. And I was talking, you know, and what she said really made me think about storytelling itself, and about how every time we tell a story about ourselves, whether that's, you know, a very factual story or a very embellished story or a story that's just a, you know, load of lies, every time we do it, we're creating ourselves anew, or reimagining who we are, or who we wish we were, or who we're afraid we might become, or and it's always never just relaying the facts of our lives. It's always this act of creation. And she said to me, Matt, she's like, you know, I titled this event "Guys I Know." I really should have entitled it "Guys I Thought I Knew." Thank you.
Nice job, Matt.